Hi, guys. This is a recap of the crossover event with Beyond the Gates and Young and the Restless. But before we get to the recap, if you've been to this channel or maybe you're new to the content, feel free to like, leave a comment, and subscribe. So, for this particular recap, I'm going to give you a summary of what's going on and why we're having the crossover. And then I will give you the characters and what they were doing in the scenes during this crossover. So the scenes that I talk about in this video may not be in the order in which they aired in the episode. I will start with the characters from Young and the Restless because there weren't as many of them. And then I will do the characters from Beyond the Gates. And just like my other recaps, I like to go from my least favorite or least impactful to my most favorite or most impactful scenes. And if I have any comments, theories, or observations, I will share them at the end of the video. So I normally don't give ratings for recaps, but for this video, I will give my rating at the end. So please bear with me. I've been struggling with my allergies, and this video may be a little long, but if you hear my voice crack, that is why. So without further ado, let me tell you what these characters have been up to. So just to give the summary of why we're having this crossover event, Martin is having this fundraiser and his campaign is not doing as well as it should be at this point. So Vernon calls in a major favor. He calls his old friend Victor Newman from Genoa City. And Victor and Vernon, they have a past relationship because Victor was an early supporter of Vernon's campaign when he was running for Senate. And he sees like similarities in Martin. He's been following Martin's career. So when Vernon calls him, he's eager to support Martin, and Vernon wants him to give the keynote speech at the fundraiser. So he agrees, to do that. He even donates money and he gives an endorsement. And he tells others that they should vote for Martin. And then, we have this event, the fundraiser, and we get a notification that there's going to be a tornado. And that's what happens in these episodes, is the tornado and then the aftermath. So the characters from Genoa City, we're going to start with Victor Newman. Victor Newman comes into town. He meets with Vernon and Anita, and he and Vernon catch up. And then when the event starts, he gets to meet Martin, and later on he gives his keynote speech, and then he leaves Fairmont Crest to go back to Genoa City, and he doesn't tell anyone. So Jack Abbott and Diane Jenkins also come to this event, and they're mingling with everybody. And Diane, she talks to Leslie. Well, actually Leslie talks to her, and she, pretty much tells her about some of the things that she's heard that Diane has done, and she tells her that they are similar. Then later, after the tornado, they pretty much go into action with helping as well. They're looking for people and helping the injured in any way that they can. They are also looking for Kyle, and they don't know where Victor is. Later, Jack Abbott is grateful to Joey because he did something wonderful for him. And then Jack Abbott is pulled to the side by Martin and Smitty, and they tell him that he should watch out for Joey and not get too close to Joey. And then he tells them that if Joey ever calls, he will deal with it whenever the situation comes up. Kyle Abbott, he is mingling as well. He knows Martin. During this time, he has moments with Haley. He's getting to know her. And so when the tornado comes, he is with Haley. He saves her, and then they end up in a closet. And eventually they end up, kissing. They're in there talking and everything. And at first, Haley tells him that she's just there with a guest. But then after the kiss, she feels remorse and she tells him that it's actually her husband and he's older. Kyle is, he has a little remorse for kissing Haley. And then Haley suggests, that they dance. And so he dances with Haley. Then later on, Anita tells him to watch out for Haley. And then he is reunited with his family eventually. So Abby Newman, when she gets there, she is with her husband, Devon. And she talks to Chelsea about the Chelsea Cat bags, and they have this conversation about, how well Chelsea Cat is doing and everything. And she has this one-on-one conversation with Chelsea about a specific type of bag that she would like to see them do for moms. And Chelsea likes the idea. So they go off and they have that conversation. And then when the tornado happens and then the aftermath, she's looking for Victor, and she's also looking for Kyle. And she has these moments with Jack and Diane. Then eventually she tries to make a phone call in the middle of the country club, and a chandelier is loose and it ends up, coming down. But just in the nick of time, Joey pushes her out of the way. And so they are all grateful to him for doing that. Devon Winters is Abby's husband. He's also the music mogul that has already been on Beyond the Gates. And he's working on a album with the Articulates, and they want to add Barbara's voice on there. So that's one thing that he talks to Anita about. And then when he comes in, he sees Danny and he introduces, his wife to Danny and Andre. He's also, when he's talking to Anita about the album, he's interrupted by Leslie, and she wants him to know that Barbara was her mom and that she didn't, have a relationship with her, and she thinks she should be a part of this album. And so, he listens to her and tells her that's a good idea. But Anita is not too happy about that. So after the tornado, he pretty much is, walking around looking for people as well. And then he's also thankful that his wife was saved by Joey. So that's all for the characters from The Young and the Restless. So all of the characters from Beyond the Gates, Tyrell and Samantha, they are at the country club at first. They're there with their fathers and they're taking pictures, and then they leave to go to Orphe Jean's. Their Mona is having an event, and they eventually end up going home after they get food because they have homework. And Elon is at the police station, and he is hearing things about a tornado. He talks to Jacob about it, and then, Jacob ends up leaving, and he's coordinating the response, talking to Jacob and talking to other people. They don't show it all on camera, but he's supposedly, coordinating a response for getting help to the country club. Shanice is there with Ted. She's his plus one, and she's having a good time at first, but then after the tornado, she pretty much goes into, being a nurse. So she's, everywhere. She's helping all those people in need. And then later, she is left there because Ted has to leave. And so she's continuing to help people. Ashley, we first see her at home, and Naomi invites her to the event. And she finally agrees to come. They find her something to wear. And so she comes to the event, and she's doing well at first. And then she has this encounter with Anastasia. And she's being, mean, telling her that, she didn't, she wasn't with Derek and all of that. So you know how she can, say some things to kind of get under your skin. So that's what she did. And she upsets Ashley. And Ashley goes into the bridal suite. then Danny eventually goes to support Ashley, and they have a conversation. And then eventually Naomi comes, and they are together when the tornado hits. And but the area that they're in, it didn't really see any damage, so they were able to leave their area to go down to the country club part of, because there's the hotel and then there's the country club. They're kind of connected. And so they go to the country club to help. And then Ashley, she helps Anastasia. And then she goes around and she helps just a whole bunch of people. So now that we know that Anastasia, was there, she goes from being mean to a moment after the tornado of being shocked, and then being helped by the exact person that she was being mean to, which was Ashley. And then after she comes back to herself, she helps herself at the bar and she gets drunk. So that's pretty much all that she did during this time. And then Shonda, who is Martin's campaign manager, Anita tells her to pretty much come up with a list of, who is accounted for and who's still missing and all of that. So after the tornado, she is, making that list. She's going around and, making sure everybody is accounted for. Joey and Vanessa. So Joey and Vanessa show up to the event, and Vanessa was invited, but they didn't invite Joey. And so Ted and Martin and everyone, they are upset that Joey's there because they do not want Joey to be in pictures with Martin at this moment, because like I said, Martin is struggling and it wouldn't be a good look. So Ted goes over to confront Vanessa and Joey, and they tell her that they want Joey to leave, and she puts up this big fuss because she doesn't want Joey to leave, and she says that they are not going anywhere. And then Bill walks up to try to assist Ted, to make sure there's no problem. And then after the tornado happens, Joey and Vanessa, they look for missing people. Joey jumps into action to try to save people. He helps those in need. He pushes Abby Newman out of the way and saves her life. And then he introduces himself to Jack Abbott. And he also, when Martin and Smitty tell Jack Abbott to kind of look out for him and that he's not all, all nice and everything, he's standing back watching everything. So that's pretty much all that they do. And then Haley. So when she's there, she sees Kyle and she takes off her ring. And, she's having this conversation with him. So at different times they interact. And then when the tornado happens, they end up in a closet together. Like I said, they kiss. And then Haley apologizes and she tells him, she comes clean, that she's not just there with the date, that she's there with her husband. And she says that Bill is old. And then, they talk for a while. And then she has this idea to turn on music, because she says if they're going to be trapped, they may as well have fun. So they dance. And she pretty much keeps Kyle calm, and they dance until they are found. And then when they actually get found, they meet Anita in the hallway, and Anita tells Haley that Bill is still missing. And so she goes to look for Bill. And then later when Bill is found, she wants to know why Bill, is not dirty. If he was in the stairwell, why is he not dirty? So that's pretty much all with Haley. So Isaiah, he comes to the event with Eva, and, they're standing there having a good time, mingling and talking. And then after the tornado happens, or during the tornado, we know that Isaiah, he loses track of Eva. And so after the tornado, he spends most of his time looking for Eva. And then he hears Kat screaming for help, and he goes in to bring Eva out. So Vernon, he is pretty much the coordinator in this whole thing. He introduces Victor Newman, and then during the tornado, he's hiding with Anita, and then we see Leslie tell them to move over. Then Anita ends up hurting her ankle during this time, and then after the tornado, Vernon, he serves as this person that goes around, and he's trying to get the lights on. He's trying to coordinate a response with the first responders. He's trying to make sure everybody's okay. He's comforting people. He's, getting walkie-talkies. And so he's pretty much the reason why things went smoothly after the tornado. Because I feel like he feels a responsibility to do that, because that is his family's club. And so he just pretty much goes into action. He leaves Anita because she says she'll be okay. And so that's pretty much what he did. He also has a moment with Leslie. She's upset about Eva not being able to find her, and he comforts her. So they have this, unlikely conversation of him, being a comforter to her. And so Anita, like I said, she gets hurt during the tornado. She has an ankle sprain, and then Leslie agrees to wrap her ankle. At first, Anita is hesitant, and then, she allows it, and Leslie tells her that she's done it a bunch of times because of Eva. So after she gets wrapped all up and everything, and she hears from other family members and all of that, she springs into action to help as well. So she hears from Nicole over the walkie, and then she tells them to tell Shonda that Nicole is accounted for. Then when she meets Kyle and Haley in the hallway, she tells Kyle that Haley may look innocent, but she is not innocent, and that he should watch out for her. She also tells Haley that Bill is, missing, and she's looking at Haley, weird, because she tells Haley that, you look like you've been in a good position, because her and Kyle come out of the closet and they don't look like they've been harmed or anything. So Andre is with Danny. He walks up on a conversation she is having with Devon, and at first he's, a little jealous, and then Devon's wife, Abby, comes up, and then they leave, and Andre says that he's happy that Devon has a wife. And then after the tornado happens, he actually gets hurt. He has a leg injury, and he's pretty much the first one that they notice that is, hurt really bad. So they all, jump into action to try to help him. So once he's mended, he spends the rest of his time worried about Danny, and because he doesn't know where she is. He knows that she went up with Ashley to talk to Ashley, but she was supposed to be back. So he spends a lot of his time worrying if she's okay, because he, can't lose her. So now Danny, she goes to comfort Ashley, and then when Naomi comes up, she, leaves Ashley because she doesn't want to miss Martin's speech. So as she's leaving, she gets into the elevator, and that is when the tornado happens. And just so happens that she's in there with Bill. And so she is going through because she's worried about her kids. She doesn't bring up Andre once, but she's trying to get to her kids, and she's trying to figure out a way to get out of the elevator. So that's most of her time in the elevator with Bill. And then he eventually comes her down, and they talk, they reminisce a little bit, and then I guess she eventually talks him into her plan. She wanted to climb up. She wanted to, get on his shoulders and climb up her way up to try to see if she can get out of there. And so they end up falling, and then eventually they end up kissing. And then after everything comes back on, the lights and all that stuff comes back on, she has regrets. We know that they had an intimate moment, and she tells Bill to say that he was somewhere else, that he was not in there with her. And then when the elevator doors open, she tells him to wait for her to go out first, and then for him to go out and come, from another direction, pretty much. And then after she goes into the ballroom, she finally is reunited with her kids, and she is reunited with Andre, and she has this sense of guilt, and he tells her that, he's been looking for her and he didn't know what he would do if he lost her, so she really feels guilty. And then they eventually go to the hospital because, like I said, Andre was hurt. And so Bill is assisting, with helping Joey leave because, like I said, he's there. He doesn't want anything to go bad with Martin's event. So he goes up to see if anything is wrong or how can he help with removing Joey. And then the event starts, and I don't know where Bill goes, but he eventually ends up in the elevator with Danny during the tornado. And for some reason, he is really calm in this moment. He's calming her down. And then, he makes jokes to try to lighten the mood. And he gets on Danny's nerves, and she laughs. And then eventually he, does the plan with her. And like I said, they have an intimate moment. And so he agrees to what Danny says, that she wants to happen when they, finally get out of the elevator. And then when he comes in and he sees Haley, he's, like I said, he has this look of remorse, but I don't know if it's actually remorse. I think he's just, Danny says that, it shouldn't have happened and all of that. I think he was actually okay with it. But then when she started, acting weird, I think that's what, threw him off a little bit. And then he has this conversation with Haley. She's asking him questions. She wants to know why he is not dirty, if he was in the stairwell. And he's really not answering the questions, that she's asking him. And he's just looking weird this whole time. So they eventually leave. So Nicole, she's there. She actually came by herself, so she didn't pick a date. And after the tornado, she's upset because she doesn't know where any of her children are, but she's also helping, those that are in need. She eventually gets a walkie-talkie and she gets to talk to her mom, and she finds out that Danny is still missing. And like I said, she's still upset because she can't find Kat, she can't find Martin. And then someone says that there's somebody under the tree, and we find out it's Martin. So she's really upset because he's, when they moved the tree off of him, he's actually unconscious. So, she's really upset, and Ted is trying to keep it together, but they all are trying to get Martin to come to, pretty much. Then when they finally get Martin to come to, she's still upset because she doesn't know where Kat is. And we hear Leslie on the walkie. She's looking for Eva, and this makes Nicole upset, and Nicole goes off on Leslie. She lets her know that, other people have people missing and she should be patient and all of that. So she finally just lets Leslie have it. And then eventually, Martin is talking and everything. And, like I said, she's still helping people and all of that. Then she finds out, that Kat is okay and Martin is okay. Ted, okay, at the beginning, like I said, Ted wanted Joey to leave. He didn't want Martin to, do anything when it came to that. And then after the tornado hits, he's concerned about his children, but he really can't, just wallow in that emotion, because he's a doctor and he's trying to help people. There are injured people, so he's going through it because emotionally, because he doesn't know where Kat is, he doesn't know where Eve is, he doesn't know where Martin is. Andre is now hurt, and like I said, he has to go into doctor mode. So he's helping people. Then, like I said, when he finds Martin, he has to, keep it together. And later, he sees Kat. She finally comes in, and he wants to know what's wrong, because she has, blood on her hands and everything, or she's all shaken up. And she eventually tells him about, what went on with her and Eva, and that Eva is on her way to the hospital, and he tells them to tell Shanice that he's actually going to leave. And so he leaves for the hospital. Jacob is at the police station with his dad, and he hears about the tornado, and so he leaves the police station and he goes to the country club to be of assistance. But on his way there, there's trees and power lines down, and he's talking to his dad on the walkie-talkie, and he tells him that he's going to go in a different direction to get to the country club. So eventually he gets to the country club. He sees Naomi, they hug, and then Leslie, tries to stop him, and she wants him to, find Eva, and she wants him to promise that he won't see Eva as an afterthought, pretty much, because she knows that he's not a fan of Eva. And so he eventually promises that, he's going to do all he can to find Eva. So he sees his brother and everything, and he goes with his brother to look for Eva and Kat as well. And so they hear they hear Kat screaming, and they eventually go get help, and then they go in with Kat and they bring Eva and Kat out. Also, Jacob is the one that delivers the message that Victor Newman is in Genoa City, and he actually left before the tornado happens. And he said that he got the information from Elon. So once Kat and Eva are out, he has this conversation with Kat, and he wants to know what happened while they were, trapped together. And she tells him, everything that happened. And he also tells, Shanice that Ted, has left. Naomi invites Ashley to the event, and then she's there comforting her. And then when the tornado happens, Naomi wants to call Jacob. She's trying to get a signal on her phone because she knows Jacob. She knows that if he hears about this tornado, he's going to try to come there. And she's trying to stop him from coming there, but she, can't get a signal. And so they eventually leave the area where they are, and they go to help. And so Naomi, is just moving around and helping people where she can. When Jacob finally gets there, they embrace each other, and then they go their separate ways to help, others. So Chelsea, during this time, actually before the tornado, Chelsea has a conversation with Abby Newman about Chelsea Cat, and they have a conversation about a new Chelsea Cat bag. Then the tornado hits, and Chelsea she's kind of, distraught a little bit because she can't find people, but she's also moving around, and she's trying to help people, and she's trying to find people, and she's trying to comfort people, and she's talking to, because they're pretty much split. There's some people in the country club area, the ballroom area, and then there's people in the area with the bar. and it's blocked off. And so she's been, coordinating and talking to, different people through the little crack in the area, where they can actually talk to someone on, either side. They can't get through, but they can talk to someone on either side. And she has a moment where she's stressing out, and then she comes back to herself and she says that, she has to help. So she's pretty much, doing kind of like what her grandfather is doing, but not on the same level. And then we have Leslie. Leslie, she got her tickets to Martin's event. She's mingling and she's interrupting conversations. And then when they have, the tornado and everything, she sees Vernon and Anita. They're hiding, and she tells Vernon to move over, and she calls him old. And so she's down there with them, hiding as the tornado is going on. And then after the fact, she agrees to help Anita, not just because she just wants to, but she says that, they shared their spot with her during the tornado, and so she wanted to show her appreciation. Also, as she's wrapping Anita's wound, she tells her that, she knows how to do that because Eva, and her couldn't really afford to go to the doctor, when Eva was growing up, and Eva would have injuries, and so she had to learn how to do all of those things. And after that, she is looking for Eva, and she's upset because she can't find her, and she's asking all these people, have they seen Eva? And she's getting upset, and she's getting, anxious. She doesn't know where Eva is, and she's, crying a little bit. And then Vernon calms her down. And then once she does find out, where Eva is and what's going on with Eva, she gets mad at Kat, and she wants to know why Eva is injured and Kat is not. And so that's pretty much, all with Leslie. Smitty is by Martin's side through this entire time. And then after the tornado happens, he's helping with the injured. He doesn't know where Martin is. They think Martin may be outside, helping people, because he was helping people before the tornado happened. And then they find out that Martin was actually, hit by the tree that came through the window at the country club, and he was under the tree. He was unconscious, and Smitty, was upset, and he was trying to get Martin to wake up. And so after Martin eventually, comes to, he's sitting there. Smitty is trying to get him to get checked out, and he's saying that he's okay. They have that conversation with Jack Abbott. And then at the end, when the roads are clear and everything, Smitty still wants Martin to go to the hospital. Martin, insists that he's fine, and then he passes out. So, let's get to Martin. Okay, so Martin, he's there. He gets introduced. He gives his speech, and he's starting to talk, and then he's interrupted, and he has been told that, the tornado is actually coming, and he's trying to, tell everyone where they should go and all of that. And so, people actually get up and they start to move around and they start to leave. But before they can all get out, the tornado hits, and then we don't see Martin for a while, and then we find out he's unconscious under a tree. He comes to, and then he passes out again, and then he ends up in the hospital. Eva is at the fundraiser with Isaiah, and a reporter comes up to her, and she's trying to, get information out of Eva. She starts off, talking about Eva being Martin's sister, and then she wants to know, like, when did they find out, that they were siblings and everything. And so Eva is, she's just talking because she doesn't know, that the reporter is trying to set her up. And so Kat actually comes over and interrupts the interview, And Eva gets mad at Kat because she says that she can handle it and all of that. But she really couldn't, because she was giving away, starting to give away a lot of information. So during the tornado, we see, Kat and Eva together, and they are arguing, because they're trying to get out and with everybody else. And then when the tornado happens, Eva and Kat, they are in the stairwell area. Eva actually pushes Kat in there, and then Eva gets hurt. And so this whole time, Kat is trying to get out, and she thinks Eva is, being lazy and not wanting to help. And so Eva is there. She's feeling pains in her side, and she is complaining about being sick. She ends up spitting up blood, and then she eventually passes out. And then we see Eva, once she is saved by Isaiah and the first responders, she is taken to the hospital. So Kat, like I said, she stops Eva earlier from making a mistake with the reporter. And when they are in the stairwell, like I said, Kat is complaining. She's talking bad about Eva, and she's saying that Eva, it's not helping, and she's being lazy and all of that. And then when she eventually notices that Eva is not playing, she goes down to help Eva, and then Eva starts to spit up blood, and Kat is trying to catch the blood, and she is calling for help, and she's crying, and she's telling Eva that, you can, say mean things to me, please wake up, and all of that. And so pretty much she spent a lot of time screaming, and then Isaiah eventually hears her, and he's trying to get in there to them, and she tells Isaiah to go get help because Eva is hurt really bad, and she needs help really bad. And then she, lets them know that Eva is unconscious. And so they go get help, and then they eventually come and they get them out of there. And so when they come out, Eva is on her way to the, going to the hospital, and Kat is there. She's in shock, and Leslie is pretty much upset with her because she's wondering why Kat is not hurt as well, and why she's, Eva is hurt and not her. So she, kind of fusses at her a little bit. And then when they leave, Kat, talks to Jacob, and he wants to know what happened. And so she tells him everything that happened, and he tells her that no one will blame you because this is a tornado. You couldn't have predicted this, and you didn't know Eva would get hurt, pretty much. And she tells him that someone will blame her, and she's referring to Leslie. And so she has all this blood on her hands, and she ended up putting on gloves, and then she goes into the ballroom area with so she could talk to her parents. And she tells Ted that Eva is hurt. She lets him know what happened, and she goes through the rundown. And then Ted ends up leaving Kat there, and he goes to the hospital. Okay, so that's all that pretty much happened during this time. I have some thoughts on this crossover event. So it started off kind of slow. To me, some of the characters, when they were mingling, it felt unnatural, especially for the Beyond the Gates characters. And I don't know if they were doing that because they were trying to give the Young and the Restless characters the spotlight in this moment. Or if they were doing that because they know that they were guests and they were trying to make them, feel special and feel comfortable in this space. And I don't know if they knew it's because they are like these high powered guests that they were trying to be extra attentive to them. I don't know, but it started off a little kind of slow and unnatural. Then when the tornado hit, I think the acting got so much better. The storyline got better. The people that were helping each other, you had people from The Young and the Restless and Beyond the Gates, they were actually working together. People were separated with cast members from each episode, each show. And I think things just, got really intense. You had all these moments with these people who were trapped, and you had all these moments where people who were together looking for other people. It just was, it was really good. It was, a couple of episodes of just high intensity, great acting from some characters, and I just think it was great, once the tornado hit. And also for the show Beyond the Gates, I don't know what it did for Young and the Restless, but for Beyond the Gates, to me, we've had, a few episodes that have been kind of slow. So I feel like it gave the series a new energy, and it made me excited to see what was going to come after the fact, once the other characters went back home. And it just makes me want to see like what the episodes in the future will be. Also, I'm upset with Danny and Bill. And I don't feel like they were in the elevator long. And, the intimate moment shouldn't have happened. So I'm upset with her when it comes to that. I think Haley, I liked her better in these episodes. Because it didn't feel like she was playing the dual character, the nice girl and then, the little evil person. I just felt like she was just being herself with Kyle. Even though she, saw somebody with money. But I just felt like, she may have actually been attracted to him, and she may have actually enjoyed his company. So I did like that part of it. When it comes to Joey, I always see Joey as a character who is always trying to get favors. So I saw all of his help in these episodes as a way to gain favor with powerful people. And I think, normally he didn't, don't want to come to events with Vanessa, but I think he wanted to be at this event because he knew all those powerful people would be there. And he sprung into action helping Martin. And I mean, just so many different times he was the person that was, trying to help somebody, trying to save somebody. And I feel like it was all done with the intention of trying to make himself known and trying to also have people he can get favors from. I also want to see how they are going to fix the country club. Is it going to look the same, or will we get a new look for the country club since they have to rebuild everything? Because in these episodes, they really did a number on the country club. So like I said, I'm excited to see what that looks like. And also, I think this crossover episode was good. I would like to see more crossovers, but maybe not anytime soon. And then maybe not an entire, I won't say an entire cast, but not that many people at one time. Maybe a cast member here and there. I think we'll be fine, but I love the crossovers, and I feel like we will get some because Devon mentioned that he's going to do the album with Anita, and so he's already been on Beyond the Gates before. And then, like I said, the Abby situation, when she talked to Chelsea, I can see her coming on the show, for the Chelsea Cat bag or whatever that she, inspired. Also, she invited Martin and Smitty to come to Genoa City, so I don't know if they will go to Genoa City and be on The Young and the Restless for some episodes. So like I said, I think It was good to have this crossover. I think that crossovers are fine in the future, but just not so much of it and not so frequent. I think it gave the show, like I said, a new energy, and I'm ready for the episodes that are going to follow. I don't know. What do you guys think about this crossover event? Did you enjoy it? Do you think they should do more crossovers with the Young and the Restless? Just leave your comments in the comment section. Thanks for watching this Beyond the Gates and Young and the Restless crossover event recap. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I will talk to you later.